Stories, not singing, storytelling. It's what has bound us together as a people for since the beginning, since we could, I think even before we could speak. Um, and I used to tell myself, I'm just not good at telling stories. I'm really not good. I remember being at like parties and my husband or a friend would just be telling this outrageous story with the, beginning details and the climax and the resolution. And I was like, how did you do that? And people would be roaring in laughter, captivated. And the thing is I was just making it too complicated because your story is pivotal to your brand, pivotal. And it's so important and it doesn't have to be that complicated. Okay. So it's one of the most important things you can do to create powerful content that will resonate with your audience far beyond a step 1, 2, or 3. I remember I had this history teacher in college and we were in this big auditorium, and nothing against history. I just could never remember the dates and it was specific names and it just felt like a laundry list of things to remember. But I stepped into this classroom and this professor never opened a book, never looked at notes. He would lean forward on his podium and he would just speak and tell the story of the indigenous people in South America. And I have never been so captivated in a history class. And obviously, storytelling, we love it. We read books, we watch movies, we listen to our friends, we pass notes back and forth in high school. This is all forms of storytelling. So, what you need to do, have to do in order to tap into your story, which is your gift, which is so pivotal to your personal brand. Like, I want you to think back, like, what was the moment where you, what I don't call it, Gerber from E-Myth calls it like your entrepreneurial seizure. Like, what was that moment? Do you remember? Do you remember what happened when you're like, I have to start this business? Like there were no other options. Like you had to do it. That's a story. Or maybe you just had such a sweet memory of cooking dinner with your family or with your grandma every Saturday night. And every time she would cook, she would like let you stir the stew or put the bread in the special basket. And this just brought such warmth to you that you then created a health business and how to cook nourishing food for yourself and your family. I mean, like, what was one of those pivotal, I can't say pivotal, you guys. What was one of those pivotal moments in your life that just changed everything or set a tone or made you fall in love with something that you're now providing as a product or a service? That's a huge story for your brand. And then like, okay, so maybe you've told that story, or maybe your philosophy or your theory about things relates back to an anecdotal story in history or a famous fable, and you can pull on that and bring that into your business. That's another way you can bring storytelling into your knowledge and your skills and what you share with your audience. A third, which I love, which happens every single day, is you can have a very, let's call it a minor life experience and use that and relate it back to your brand. Let me give you an example. I've been working out a lot lately. Thank gosh. Quarantine 15 definitely gained it. And I've been working for like the last 3-4 months to get my body back where I want it to. Great. Okay. It's challenging. I'm a yoga girl, but this is definitely like weights and core and all those things. So it's challenging. And I'm like literally cursing my trainer under my breath. Hopefully he doesn't hear me when I'm like doing these mountain climbers. And it's challenging. And just when I think I can't do any more, when I'm like, I'm done, like my leg literally won't lift another inch, I do it. I push through that barrier. Then the endorphins start peaking and I'm like super happy and giddy and like I have all this new fresh energy and I can just I feel alive, right? So it's really, really, really hard. And then all of a sudden you like hit that peak and that threshold and it's like, okay, yeah, this is all worth it. Plus then you look in the mirror and things are changing and shifting into places where they're supposed to be. And you're like, yes, I'm doing it. I'm excited. And this is exactly what getting your content and starting to go live and feeling like your brand is in alignment, that's exactly what this can feel like. It can be hard, it can be challenging, you might have fear, you might want to give up, but you don't. And when you don't and you reap the rewards of it, when one of your clients sends you a testimonial and is like, oh my God, I just signed 3 people up for my program based off the advice that you gave me. Or my husband is now completely on board with my health journey and he's starting to eat healthy too. Whatever the case may be, or that design is going to be showcased in a magazine somewhere or an online, important place. It's like you're like, okay, there are the endorphins. This is like this is wow. I had to gruel, I had to sweat, I had to train, I had to rehabitualize myself, if that's even a word. And this is the payoff. Then I get to feel those wins and you've already won for the day, or you keep winning, and then that win builds off the next win and the next win and the next win, just like working out. Do you see how I just didn't give you like a 1, 2, 3? Do this, do this, do this, which I'm not against. But do you see how you felt it? There was a story. You could relate to it. This is the power of storytelling. This is what I want you to start doing in your own brand and in your own business. Tell a story. What happened to you today? What gave you like a little aha? Or you're like pouring your cup of coffee and you realize, I want to feel like I feel when I just pour my first cup of coffee and take that first sip. I want to feel that all day long. How can I bring that into my life more? Okay, so then you take that and you focus it back into whatever your business is about. So how can you make business feel more like a vacation? There's a topic for you. I mean, do you see what I'm doing here? Like you can take everyday experiences and showcase them back, story tell them back into a learning lesson, into what your brand is about, into what your messaging is about, to further showcase what your brand values are. Because whatever your values are what your audience's values are. And whatever stories excite and entertain you are what is going to excite and entertain your audience. So don't hesitate to pull in these little stories and anecdotes into a lot of what you do, if not everything. I was recently talking to a client. She's like, I don't know. I just don't know what to post about. I'm like, and she teaches on how to like live an amazing life. And she came from a lot of like health and personal issues, and she just transformed her whole life, took like 3 solid years, really worked on herself, and now she's teaching others how to do the same and have more joy and more dazzle and more beauty and all this. And I'm like, what do you need to hear today? What is the big little, honestly, sometimes little is even better. Like if your audience is crazed, if they are overwhelmed, if they are struggling, you're not going to give them a 10 item list of things to do today, especially if you're talking about self-care. That just feels like another obstacle to overcome. So like if you were to be loving on yourself, educating yourself with your skills and what you know, what would you tell your audience? What would you tell yourself? Simpatico, same. Like it all flows together, you guys. So tell the story. So I'm sipping that first cup of coffee for the morning, and I just want you to take 2 seconds today and take a break. If it's with water, if it's with coffee, if it's with tea, if it's your favorite drink in the whole wide world, just take a sip and take a deep breath and just relish in this moment. Boom, there's your story. Like, it's not that hard. I don't want you to overcomplicate this. And you can relate any of that back to whatever your business or your product is. Okay. Woo. So storytelling, come up with one or all three of those anecdotes, whether it's that pivotal. Why can't I say pivotal? You guys can make fun of me on this. I don't care. So one of those pivotal moments in your life that made you want to do what you're doing now, tell that story. Maybe there's a fable or historical story that relates back to your business that you're like, every time I hear this story, it so reminds me of what I do. Boom, there's another story. And number 3, the ones you can use all day, every day, is something that happened to you today, yesterday, last week, while you were on vacation, while you were talking to your mate, and relate it back to your business. And those are like the little daily anecdotes you can tell. Okay. Tell me what happens. Like, tag me on the Instagram, share that you listen to this podcast. Like, I want to know like what you guys are getting from this. Can't wait to talk to you soon.